You are worth $650 million, and the woman at the self-checkout behind you is about to ask if you have a spare quarter for the cart return. You hand it to her. She says thanks. She has no idea. You're not hiding a secret identity. You're not wearing a disguise. You're just a person in a grocery store parking lot who happens to own things most people will never notice exist. Tucked behind highways and strip malls and industrial parks nobody bothers to look twice at. The number didn't arrive with fireworks. It arrived in a text from your bookkeeper that just said, "Call me when you get a sec," which is either very good news or very bad news. And you didn't find out which until you were sitting in your car eating a gas station sandwich, wondering if this was finally the year something had gone wrong. This starts 11 years earlier, in a self-storage facility off a frontage road nobody drives down on purpose. You were there helping your cousin move a mattress, and while you waited in the office, you watched the manager turn away a customer. "Units full," she said. "Whole facility's full, has been for 4 months. 120 units, full for 4 months, in a town that wasn't growing and didn't have a single billboard advertising the place." You looked up who owned it. A retired couple, no website, no online booking, running the whole operation out of a 3-ring binder and a landline. You called and asked if they'd ever thought about selling. They laughed and said everyone asked that eventually, usually right before they change their mind. It took 7 months to get the numbers to make sense, mostly because you didn't know what you were looking at yet. The facility grossed close to $11,000 a month, and after property tax, insurance, and a part-time gate attendant, it cleared about $6,200. You bought it for $310,000, almost everything you had, plus a loan that made your stomach hurt every time the statement arrived. The first month you owned it, you drove out at 11 at night just to sit in the lot and watch the gate roll open for a stranger's code. Nobody clapped. Nobody knew. You just felt something you didn't have a name for yet. Something closer to relief than excitement. Storage facilities don't care about recessions. People downsize. They don't stop needing a place to put the stuff they can't part with. They divorce. They inherit a dead relative's furniture. They start a small business that outgrows a garage. The need doesn't disappear when the economy wobbles. It just changes shape and keeps showing up in the same gray metal buildings off the same forgettable roads. That's the thing you started noticing everywhere once you knew to look for it. Underneath almost every small daily inconvenience is a business somebody built to solve exactly that inconvenience, and most of those businesses are owned by someone who's tired, aging out, and quietly ready to sell to whoever bothers to ask. Next came a car wash, 4 self-serve bays on a corner lot, previously run for 26 years by a man named Walt who kept every record on carbon copy receipt paper. It cost $94,000 and nets around $31,000 a year, mostly quarters and app payments from people who just want a clean car before a first date. You've been there maybe a dozen times total. A kid down the street checks the vacuums and empties the coin boxes twice a week. Somewhere in year 4, you noticed the break room at your dentist's office had a sad, half-stocked snack machine nobody had refilled in what looked like weeks. You asked who owned it. Turned out nobody really did anymore. The original vendor had quietly stopped servicing routes in that part of the county. You bought 6 vending machines secondhand for $4,000 total. Placed them in 3 medical offices and a tire shop and restocked them yourself on Sunday afternoons for the first year, driving a route with a cooler in your trunk like a very boring milkman. That route now clears about $1,800 a month combined, and you haven't personally touched a vending machine in 2 years because you eventually hired someone whose entire job is driving that same Sunday loop. Then a strip of 6 billboards along a state highway, except you don't own the billboards, you own the dirt underneath them. An outdoor advertising company leases the land for the next 11 years, rent climbing 2% annually, whether the economy is booming or on fire. You forget these exist for months at a time, then a deposit shows up and you remember your landlord to a Chevy dealership ad you've never actually driven past. Your bookkeeper's name is Renata. She's done books for landscapers, dentists, and one guy who ran a fireworks stand out of a van. Nothing rattles her. The first time she read your full portfolio, she went quiet for a long moment, then said, "This is the least exciting collection of assets I've ever seen." You told her that was the plan. She wrote it down anyway. Here's what the portfolio held by year 9. 2 storage facilities, 218 units, netting close to $140,000 a year. 3 coin car washes across 2 states, netting around $90,000 combined. A small vending route, 22 machines across 11 locations now, netting about $22,000 a year with a part-time driver running the whole thing. Land under 9 billboards, generating just under $70,000 a year in ground rent that requires nothing but a mailbox. And a commercial laundry service contract bought from a retiring owner named Philip, who'd run it 31 years, supplying linens to 4 hotels and a diner chain. Annual revenue past $900,000, margins thin but dependable, the kind of business that never trends and never dies. None of it photographs well. None of it fits in a caption. You drive a used pickup truck with 200,000 miles on it and a check engine light you've decided to ignore until it becomes a real problem. You live in the same rented townhouse you've had since before any of this started because moving felt like a decision you didn't need to make yet. And 8 years later, you still haven't made it. Your closet has 3 pairs of the same jeans in it because deciding what to wear each morning felt like a waste of a decision you'd rather spend somewhere else. At a wedding last spring, a man cornered you near the bar wearing a jacket that cost more than your truck, talking about a crypto fund he was launching. When he asked what you did, you said you owned some storage units and a car wash, and watched his interest evaporate in real time. He turned towards someone more interesting within seconds. That dismissal was the best part of your night because the moment someone decides you're not worth their attention, you get to stop performing entirely. People assume staying invisible is about humility. For you, it's simpler than that. It's insulation. The instant people know a number, they stop seeing you and start seeing the number. Distant relatives find your phone number again. Acquaintances develop sudden business ideas that just need a little help getting off the ground. So you kept the truck, kept the townhouse, kept answering a little of this, a little of that, and it cost you nothing and protected you from almost everything. Your younger brother called you on a Sunday 2 years ago. He'd been running a small mobile mechanic business, good reputation, steady clients, a wait list that kept growing faster than he could service it, but he wanted to buy a second van and hire a helper to double his capacity. He needed $18,000. You could have sent it before he finished the sentence. $18,000 against your numbers wasn't a decision, it was barely a blip, less than what one storage facility clears in a single quarter. But you didn't send it. You asked if you could come look at his books first. And he sounded a little hurt by the question, like you were making him audition for help he thought was already his. You sat at his kitchen table on a Saturday with his laptop open between you, and it took 40 minutes to find the real problem. He wasn't undercharging on labor, he was undercharging on travel time, quietly draining 30% of his margin on every drive across town. You handed him a new invoice template and helped him renegotiate parts pricing with 2 suppliers. 3 months later, he bought the second van in cash from his own savings. He still doesn't know you could have covered it in a single transfer. You've never told him, and probably never will, because his story needs to belong to him. That's the part nobody warns you about. It's sitting across from someone you love, watching them struggle with something you could erase in under a minute, and choosing not to, because money handed to someone before the structure is ready just makes the eventual collapse more expensive. It doesn't feel like winning. It feels like carrying something quietly, alone. The text from Renata came on a Tuesday afternoon while you were standing in a hardware store aisle comparing two nearly identical drain snakes because one of the storage units had a slow draining utility sink and you'd rather deal with it yourself than wait for a plumber's schedule that was 3 weeks out. Call me when you get a sec, the message said. You called from the parking lot, half expecting bad news out of pure habit. She told you the year-end reconciliation was finished, and after folding in the storage facilities, the car washes, the vending route, the billboard land, and the laundry contract, your total net worth had crossed $650 million. You sat there for a second. A shopping cart rattled past outside your window, pushed by someone who had absolutely no reason to look at you twice. You said thanks, that's good to hear, and asked if she could send the full breakdown by Friday. Then you went back inside and bought the drain snake because a sink wasn't going to fix itself. And 11 years of Tuesdays had taught you that the number never changes what Tuesday actually requires of you. You expected the moment to feel like something. A shift, a weight lifting, some internal fireworks marking the line between before and after. There wasn't one. There was a hardware store, a fluorescent light humming overhead, and a receipt for $14 in your pocket. That absence of ceremony is the part that finally made sense to you. The number was never the point. The point was watching a system you built with your own two hands keep running quietly, without applause, without anyone in that store having the faintest idea, while a metal gate somewhere kept opening for strangers who would never know your name and never needed to. Tomorrow, the gate will open the same way it did today. Renata will send the full breakdown by Friday, like she always does, formatted the same plain way she's formatted it for 9 years. Your brother's second van will be out on a job before 8 in the morning. Walt's old car wash will run a full Saturday of quarters without you thinking about it once. And somewhere in a strip mall you've never visited, a vending machine you own will sell someone a bag of chips at 10 at night, and neither of you will ever know the other existed. That's a whole architecture, not a secret you're keeping, just a life you built to run without you standing in the middle of it, waiting to be noticed.